Hey, welcome back to Home Studio Pro, and in this video, I want to clarify something. It's a mistake that I often hear people make. They're talking about one thing, but they mean the other, or vice versa. These two things are related, but they are definitely different. What is soundproofing versus what is sound treatment for your recording space? Now, in just a second, I'll show you here inside my own recording space how I get it to sound a little bit better than the typical bedroom, so to speak. But what you're looking at right there is a recording booth for voiceover. It's custom built. It's fabricated intentionally to lessen any type of reverberations inside that room so that the microphone is only hearing your voice into the mic and not your voice reflected off of the walls back into the microphone, which kind of gives that echoey sound that nobody wants. So this is very important. As much as we can talk about microphones and signal chains and processing and settings, one of the most important parts of any recording is the actual space itself, the mechanical space, like the room itself. Not all the equipment, not all the bells and whistles, like literally the room itself. Some people will spend $1,000 on a microphone, $3,000 on a microphone, and zero on treating their room. That's a mistake. I mean, you can do it. People do it all the time, but you're not going to get the best value out of your microphone as possible unless you also complement it with the room. Space is more influential on your sound, like the space you're in, more than any processing you could do to this microphone. I'm convinced of that. EQ, compression, expansion, gating, low cut, high cut, yeah, those things are all important, but the space is the foundation of how your microphone and your recording is going to sound. But these are two different things when we talk about soundproofing versus sound treating. Soundproofing is eliminating noise from the outside of my room, which quite honestly in this little space here is impossible. This is a typical home structure, right? The walls are only so thick. There's windows. I've got neighbors. They make noise. There's leaf blowers. There's airplanes, helicopters, the garbage truck. I'm trying to think of everything that makes me stop a video. And it's frustrating, right? So you can soundproof your room, but it's difficult and it's expensive. It's a construction project. We'll get into that. Most people, what they're talking about is treating your room. And that's eliminating echoes from the inside of your space. So again, proofing is to try and not let sound inside your room. Treating is to try and make the sound that's bouncing around inside your room stop doing that to get the optimal sound as part of your recording. So just soak that in for a second. Soundproofing and sound treating are two different things because oftentimes you'll hear them interchanged, but they definitely do not mean the same thing. Soundproofing is a construction project. How do you go about this? How do you eliminate big noises from the outside of your structure? Well, you kind of have to build a floated room. That's like a room within a room. I wish I had a good diagram of this, but think about your typical bedroom. And if you just started framing up another wall inside of that, and then there's an air gap between the outside shell and the inside shell. Yeah, this is exactly how people float a room. Search for it. It'll make sense if you don't understand what I'm saying. But this eliminates variables from the outside. And some of the top voiceover professionals across the country, and obviously music studios, they do this. They invest in construction. It's costly. It's very involved. It requires, a contractor usually, and an architect, and an electrician. I mean, this is a heavy scale thing. But if you can float a room inside a room, you can pretty much use that recording space no matter what is happening on the outside. But this is not really viable for most people, including you and I. I don't have a soundproof space, so what do? Well, if noise on the outside is too much, like for example, literally today, there's a neighbor getting a new roof put on their house. I know tomorrow I'm going to hear pop, pop, pop of the nail gun when they're putting that new roof on. So I'm probably not making any videos or live streaming tomorrow. This room is not soundproof. Unfortunately, I wish it were. But I will tell you, this room is very sound treated. I'm dampening the sound. Again, and I don't have a good way to simulate this other than to give you like a little bit of echo. Now, this is simulating what it would be like if I were talking in a loud, cavernous, spacious room. And this room is, I don't know, it's small. It's 10 by 12, maybe 8 by 10, something like that. But I've sound treated the inside of it, and I'm going to show it to you in just a second. Actually, do you want to see it right now? I think we can do this. Yeah, look, there it is. See? And here's proof. There's me waving. There I am. This is what the inside of my room looks like. There's the camera on the left that's shooting me right here. But I've built those panels. Also, I've put up some moving blankets to insulate the inside of the room and the walls. There's just typical drywall right behind there, painted drywall. I mean, it's a typical home construction environment here inside this room. But those panels, and I think they're about 18 inches wide by about 5 feet high. I built those a couple years ago. They're stuffed with rock wool insulation on the inside. I should make a different video on how I built them, but just understand that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these in the room, and they're spaced out accordingly, and they're here to help me dampen the sound so that when I yell really loud, it doesn't sound like this. That was a pretty good example, actually. And yes, I'm cheating with the mixer, but you understand my point. That's what I'm trying to accomplish with those sound panels, is to deaden the sound in this room. Now, this doesn't have to be a huge expense to deaden the sound. I mean, literally, I just showed you this. I made all this stuff with materials from Home Depot and a Joann Fabric store. I mean, this is literally not hard to come by and to put together. You don't have to spend a lot to treat your room. To isolate your room, yeah, you're instantly in the thousands of dollars. But to treat your room, my goodness, you could probably spend, I'm not even kidding. And first off, you probably already have things. A mattress, a blanket, a comforter, something you're not using or you're not using right now. And you can use all these things to help treat your room. But even if you need to go out and buy it, I bet you $100 in a bedroom of fabric and well-placed and hung and all this stuff, it would do more than a $900 Universal Audio Apollo system in terms of making your microphone and your room sound better. You can get a lot done for about $100 in sound treating your room. Now, I do understand that if you have moving blankets up around, now see, look, behind me, you would never know, right? With this setup, you would honestly never know that the rest of the studio kind of looks like that, right? It's kind of a stark comparison. Yeah, all the lights and bells and whistles. This is this is the fancy side, and then this is the business end of the room, quite honestly. So it does give you a different perspective on what you need to do to the rest of your room to get it to sound right, in addition to making it look right. So it can detract, maybe if moving blankets are up or something ugly in your background. But quite honestly, if I were using this space for only recording audio, I wouldn't even have all of this. I would honestly have more of this. I would make it look more like that space. Panels that I've put in there, I love them. They're great. I think that's the best option. Those are, by the way, wood framed, covered with fabric. Like I said, insulation on the inside. There's even a layer of landscape paper to make sure all that insulation stays in there. So it's very secure. And think about those panels as kind of like, somebody said like a catcher's mitt. Like these panels are up there to absorb the sound, dampening it. Honestly, that's the best way to put it. They are there to dampen the sound. But I do want to address foam. And I say here, foam is useless. It kind of is, and we'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, this is the goal, to minimize the sound from your voice that's going to hit the wall and reflect back into the microphone. Now, I showed you these panels. They do a pretty good job of that. That's different than foam. How much do you think, thin foam like that actually is going to catch your voice, catch that sound, and not let it reflect back? It's pretty thin, right? I mean, what if I held the foam around my ears? Would I still hear sound? Of course I would. It would be loud and clear. Foam would not really do much if I covered each of my ears with foam, because it's not really catching it or absorbing it. It's letting it pass right through. It's hitting the wall just like it used to, and it's bouncing right back just like it used to if it weren't even there. Foam works on maybe some higher frequencies, but not on the lower frequencies. If you have foam and you like it, more power to you. I'm just here to say that I did a lot of research on this, and foam deteriorates over time. It creates little fuzzy particles. You breathe those in. There's a lot left to be desired, I think, with foam. And a lot of people go on Amazon. They see it's cheap. They see it's a way to treat your room. And I see this in the background of other places. It's not necessarily the route you want to go. And I apologize if you have it and you're watching this and saying, uh-oh, I need to make a change. But ultimately, I'm here to help you get better with this stuff. So foam as a failure, yeah, if you're starting right now and you're doing something new, I would not put it in. Simple as that. So yeah, here's what my space looks like. I'll just show it to you one more time. I think it's important to let you know that, to truly get the right sound, like you actually need to do so much treatment of your room, more so than just, getting the right mic and getting the processing right. It is all about sound treating your room and also understanding the difference of soundproofing versus sound treating. Ultimately, your room is soundproofed from the outside and sound treated on the inside. But that's only if you're very lucky and you've put a lot into your recording space. Hey, that does it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thumbs up if it provided you some value. Also subscribe to this channel. I've got lots more great stuff coming out here on Home Studio Pro.